Pakistanis were optimistic that there was actually going to be an agreement signed. So, uh, and that issue is implicit in this leak that you referenced at the opening of the Defense Intelligence Agency and others in the Trump administration talking about that Israel has stepped up its spying on Trump officials.
So Israel, the Defense Intelligence Agency, which are the spies for the Pentagon, are issued a threat assessment that Israel wants to spy on Elbridge Colby, the Undersecretary of Defense, and Steve Witkoff, the president's chief personal negotiator, which basically means they're going to spy on Trump himself since Trump talks to them.
Well, not going to. They are. They are spying, and they have. I was a little amused by the story because it was pretending like this was something new. Israel has been spying on the United States for, 70 years or maybe 60. 2 words: Jonathan Pollard. So this is not new. It's just it comes with the territory. But this particular claim that Israel was now specifically targeting people in and around Trump who are involved in the negotiations with Pakistan, because Israel wasn't being briefed. They wanted to know what the hell's going on because they were concerned that Trump was going to cut a deal. And in fact, that's why Bibi Netanyahu bombed Beirut yesterday, in order to destroy this prospect for a negotiated settlement, because it's going to leave them out in the dark, and it's going to change the face of West Asia, Middle East, the Levant, pick your term.
Our friend and colleague Alistair Crooks says the Iranian attitude in a nutshell is ceasefire for all or ceasefire for none.
Yeah.
Does anybody think Trump can restrain Netanyahu?
Yeah. Well, actually, yes. That's sort of what the Pakistanis are betting on, that Trump will come to his senses. Robert Barnes told me yesterday, we were on a panel discussion, but so he told others as well, but that this pollster, Richard Barris, who's a very well-respected and competent pollster, was actually called to the White House this last week and delivered Trump and company the bad news. He said basically the Trump is viewed as Bibi's prison girlfriend. That he is.
Only you could come up with that, Larry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Well, Trump is he's at the beck and call of Israel, and that it is killing the Republicans in the polls, killing them. Now, what we have also discussed previously that, from the time when, Pepe and I got the heads up that there was that Iran had threatened that, hey, if all this attack and pressure continues against us, we're going to detonate a test nuke to show you what we've got. Since that point that we had heard that, we'd noticed a complete change in Trump's rhetoric, how he talked about Iran, not about how he talked about Israel, but he changed how he was talking about Iran. And we've seen that even in the last 24 hours. He's not coming out condemning Iran and siding with Israel. He's taken sort of a middle ground. And so I think there is some real substance to this, or the real depth. They do believe they may be close to a deal. And even his language that the blockade will remain in place until the deal is agreed on. Okay. So this entire dust up in the war yesterday was predicated upon what Iran had said previously, that any attack on the Beirut suburbs, on Beirut or Dahia, would result in retaliation by Iran. Iran has announced a new doctrine. It's a doctrine of a regional security. If it's good for, it's not just going to be them. The Iran's this news just came across. that Iran's Expeditionary Discernment Council chairman, Sadek Larijani, he said that Tehran's intervention in support of Lebanon constitutes a formal declaration of a new strategic doctrine under which attacks on any component of the resistance axis will trigger a response that extends beyond geographical boundaries and reshapes regional equations. So he said Iran's entered a new phase in which it no longer waits for threats to emerge before acting to preserve its position, but instead, they're going to take the initiative. He also warned that any expansion of the conflict or attack on critical Iranian infrastructure would also be met with a comprehensive response. So we're in something new. This is brand new. This is not.
But what is not new is that Netanyahu, if he stops attacking Lebanon, if he stops mowing the lawn, using the Smotrich phrase, Ben Gvir phrase, in Gaza, will lose his premiership and perhaps his freedom.
Correct.
So Trump's got everybody in a box here, in a corner.
Yeah. Well, this is Israel remains its own worst enemy now, and despite claims that okay, this is over, it's not over. In fact, just before coming on air, Iran has reissued, it's closing all of its airspace again. So they anticipate that there's going to be another attack and Iran's going to retaliate. Iran made a point last night of going in his sort of one of the last rounds of missile launches to go after Israel's two key military bases, Nevatim and I think the other is called Tauf, that are in southern Israel. So Iran's been waiting for this. They've been not that they were waiting to just launch a war, but they had made the plans and preparations about how they would target, what they would hit. And, here we caught Israel saying, oh, we intercepted everything. Meanwhile, you're seeing the actual explosions on the ground. So they're lying about that.
I want to read what Trump said at 6:30. Chris, if you want to put that full screen up again. Both sides, Israel and Iran, are looking to do an immediate ceasefire and caps ! Final negotiations on peace, in quotes, are proceeding, subject to ignorance or stupidity getting in its way. The blockade will remain in place and in full force in effect until a final deal is reached. Things should move quickly. Thank you for your attention to this matter. What are they agreeing on, Larry?
Well, they're going to meet Iran's agreements or what Iran's demands. One, it will be the United States will secure full proof and that Iran is not going to develop, will not field or whatever progress it's made with respect to developing a nuclear weapon, that will give that up. And that because Iran didn't want a nuke in the first place.
Well, what about the device that you and Pepe reported the president of Iran mentioned in a conversation to the head of the Pakistani army?
I don't know. All we know is that's what he told. That's what he told the prime minister, and then then the foreign minister told that to Marco Rubio, and that the Trump administration heard the conversation between Pezeshkian and Sharif, the prime minister of Pakistan, that Iran was ready to detonate a weapon to prove that it had one, if these attacks continued on Beirut and the blockade continued against Iran. Now, and the question was and still is, is that one that Iran has actually developed, is deployable, ready to go? Is it one that they just have to do a final assembly and it's ready to go? But within this is the United States has now made it its priority to try to say, okay, we don't want any nuke anywhere. And, Iran's going to insist on guarantees as well for itself. But the Pakistanis are confident that they've got an agreement. And, I was skeptical of that until I've watched Donald Trump over the last 3 days, for God's sake.
Right. We do have Donald Trump losing it yesterday. We'll play that in a minute, although it was taped before yesterday. Do we No, if the agreement provides for the unfreezing of the 24 billion in Iranian assets in American banks that the federal government has stolen.
I was told that there's supposed to be a delegation traveling from Iran, traveling to Qatar on Wednesday or Thursday to settle that issue. So Iran has not backed away from its core demands, and so it's not signing those away. And those core demands are lift the sanctions, unfreeze the assets, stop attacking the Lebanese and the Palestinians. That is a critical one. We're going to retain control of the Strait of Hormuz. So that's four. Those are really the four critical ones that they've emphasized, and they're not backing away from that. And they've deferred. Previously, they deferred talks on the nukes. That has been, I think, the focus for the United States, and so Iran's using that as leverage in these talks. But the other thing that is going on behind the scenes, it's not just Pakistan is not doing this on its own. Pakistan is acting as a proxy for China and for Russia. And what China and Russia are busy putting together is something broader, that it's not just going to be a deal for Iran, that it's going to be, let's call it NATO, for a new form of NATO, or an organization, a security organization for the Middle East that will include the militaries of Egypt, Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, and then and Saudi Arabia will be part of that. Saudi Arabia is not a military power in the region, and that's why what we've seen also yesterday, noteworthy. None of the strikes that were carried out against Iran by Israel used Saudi airspace.
Wow.
So the Saudis have stuck to this, and telling the United States, basically, they're going to be moving on. There was a reported attack on Prince Saud Air Base. Not clear, Iran goes, that wasn't us. Some claimed it was the Houthis. But given what we saw in the early days of the war that started on February 28th, where there were attacks, drone attacks and such in Turkey, that they appeared to have been false flags by Israel. So there's things are still in play, but it looks like both Qatar and the Saudis are moving. They're solidifying their position that they're going to move away from being the host of the United States military. And even what's more curious is the United Arab Emirates, who is seen as the most pro-Israeli government in the region. It was strangely quiet, and they didn't get hit. So there's some expectation that perhaps they've seen the light too, and they're gonna fall into this new regional alliance that Russia and China are trying to put together.
Here's what Naftali Bennett, who is the former prime minister of Israel and Netanyahu's chief rival, said this morning, attacking him from the right, Larry.
Yeah.
This is the moment of truth. Is Israel a sovereign state that can defend itself? Containment or a symbolic response would signal to our enemies that the spilling of our citizens' blood is permissible. Therefore, Israel needs to act powerfully and effectively. I think Netanyahu's in a box out of which he cannot get.
Yeah. No, these like any politician, boy, they're using any sign of what they're going to call weakness. And here, Netanyahu's dilemma is this: he has to do what Trump says, or else U.S. Support could be withdrawn. Now, there are lots of that'll never happen. I did read a quote the other day, or an account from Ronald Reagan in his discussions with Netanyahu, 40 plus years ago. And it was after the Israelis had invaded Beirut. And I guess there was a picture that showed up in the news of a baby, a Lebanese child with an arm blown off. And Reagan told Netanyahu at the time, that's going to be your legacy. That's going to be what people are going to remember. And so you're going to get out, to tell them you can get the hell out now, or I'm cutting you off. Israel had to do what the United States said, and it's still the reality is Israel is still vulnerable in that regard. But here we had Bibi Netanyahu bragging just yesterday that he had gotten this Section 224 put in there that's going to make basically join the United States and Israel's military activities, at least as far as development of technology and such. I mean, this is outrageous. And so, Trump he's lost control of this narrative up to this point. We'll see if he can regain it. And he's trying to regain it now by telling, okay, both sides are going to stop fighting. If things go as he wants to, he will sign an agreement, maybe later this week, as shocking as that might be. But within the spoiler still remains Israel, and Israel remains a spoiler as long as the United States continues to supply them with weapons, with money, with intelligence support. If we cut that off, then all of a sudden Israel's they don't have anywhere else to turn, and they are going to have to make their own internal adjustments.
Here's Trump losing control of himself on Meet the Press yesterday. Chris, cut number one.
Do you think it's appropriate that they have an election and 5 days later they're nowhere close to picking a winner?
State and local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
They're urging the votes to be counted quickly. That's how they vote in California.
They're crooked, just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
really.
Let's
well,
continue.
You play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid. You play right into their hands with this rap. You know that these elections are rigged. Your network knows that they're rigged. You know that I won an election in a landslide, and I got 94% bad press.
But, Mr. President,
you know why I got that? Because you have no credibility.
But you've never presented evidence that it was rigged. Let's keep talking about. I want to talk about Todd.
You have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk about
your elections in this country. We're like a third world country.
But, sir,
your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But, Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know.
I've sat in the rain with you for an hour, on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press because you know what?
Mr. President,
a country can never be great with a dishonest
Listen,
press.
we traveled all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
Notice what bad shape he's in. Did you notice that as he left, he crushed the microphone with his shoe?
Yeah. Well, today's winner of the Mr. Congeniality Award is Donald Trump.
It didn't look very good there, Larry. I wonder how he reacted when they told him that Bibi's people were spying on him.
Yeah, well, not happy. I guarantee you that. Yeah, it's clearly he is. He's not the robust figure that he once was. Now, and him getting he's 79 now or 80.
Well, he turns 80 on Sunday.
Okay, so I understand if you've been sitting for a while and you get up and you're stiff. I do that. I'm not about 80, but still his florid face and. Again, it's the anger, and this gets back to the lack of emotional control, where there's a way to do this in a presidential way. Now, I'm sure there's some out there that enjoyed seeing Kristen Welker get verbally clobbered like this. They don't like the media, and you can make a case. I understand Trump's outrage over. The shenanigans that went on back in the 2020 election. But at the same time, who was president? Who had control of the Justice Department? Who could have actually done something about it and didn't, failed to do so? He didn't even have a strategy when there was clear evidence before the election that there were efforts up to steal it. And instead of him putting together a task force that was going to a coordinated strategy to challenge this, it was like a worldwide wrestling federation grudge match. You had 3 different lawyers. You had Sidney Powell doing her thing and Rudy Giuliani doing his thing. And it was ridiculous.
Right. He was talking, of course, about the elections in Los Angeles, and he didn't present any evidence at all. It's not really a topic relevant for us, other than his demeanor. When he called Netanyahu over the weekend and told him to stop bombing in Israel, in Lebanon, Netanyahu ratcheted up the bombing, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, there was no other. He said, wait for a few days. So this was pure defiance on Netanyahu's part, and he's getting old and cranky too. That this would be, he goes back to the days of Ronald Reagan, where Reagan yelled at him, and so now he says, "You're not the boss of me. You can't tell me what to do." And then he went and did it. Except it puts Israel in the position now without U.S. assistance. They can't sustain this at all. And if the United States, if Trump gets angry enough and walks away, and Lord knows he does still have some people in his administration, at least at the Department of War, that were leaking that information that went to the New York Times report about the spying of Israel. So because if the entire Trump team was fully in the pockets of the Israelis, that wouldn't have come out. But that was allowed out. It had been actually in the works for a few days, I'm told, and this is a signal of trying to break the Zionist grip on the Trump administration. So that fight is still underway. The Zionists still are winning, in my view, because they've got Tom Cotton hopping forward to push the 224 section. So to fully integrate Israel's military activities with U.S. military activities, that's underway, but it is getting pushback now.
That's so that it's profoundly unconstitutional because it violates the treaty clause. That can only be done by a treaty, which means 2/3 of the Senate. They know they couldn't get the votes, but don't wait for the court to. Don't hold your breath waiting for the court to intervene. Here's the Iran Foreign Ministry spokesman earlier today. This is rather telling, Larry. Cut number 5.
1 and 2, we should not overlook the fact that the U.S. State Department has explicitly stated that the main reason for imposing this war against Iran is to support the regime. It has cited support for the Zionist regime. This has been the official position of the United States. Third, even now, despite the claims of American officials, we are aware that CENTCOM, both in terms of defense and offense, is fully coordinated and cooperating with the Zionist regime. To interpret it as if the Zionist regime no longer even listens to the United States and acts independently of America's wishes or with the aim of humiliating American officials, commits crimes. This is a topic that can always be discussed. What matters to us is America's responsibility as a party to the April 8th ceasefire agreement is clear. Whatever happens in our region, whether the United States itself violates the ceasefire by attacking Iranian commercial ships, encroaching on the southern regions of the country, or through the Zionist regime in Lebanon, or by collaborating with the U.S. in our region, America's responsibility, America's direct responsibility, is evident, and the consequences of escalating tensions will also fall on the United States.
Sounds like they know what's going on, Larry.
Yeah, but notice yesterday they were careful not to attack. They were careful not to attack U.S. Personnel directly. So it was focused on Israel alone. And again, I can't. While I'm not privy to it, all I know is that the the sources or the source that Pepe and I have had access to are still extremely confident that they're going to pull this off and get this what's going to be called the Islamabad Accord. And all I can say is watching how Trump has behaved and taking somewhat of let's call it a neutral verbal stance vis-a-vis this war that has reignited, that there seems to be some truth to it. But, I'm born and raised in Missouri. I'm from Missouri. You got to show me.
Right. All right, one last clip, Larry. This is before he had the blow up with Kristen Welker. His analysis of the degrading of the Iran military. I'm going to guess you disagree with it, and your sources do, but here's what he said. Chris, number 4.
When you were campaigning, you said you would rip up the Iran nuclear deal, but negotiate a better deal. Why didn't you negotiate a better deal at the time? Because after it was ripped up, there weren't guardrails, and they escalated their production of enriched uranium.
Excuse me. It takes years to do these things. These people have been fighting for 47 years. They've been killing Americans. They've been taking off their legs and their arm, and their faces have been hurt so badly and so horribly. I'm moving very fast. I'm into 3 months. Vietnam lasted 19 years. I'm into my 3rd month, and all I do is say, whoa, when are you going to win? If I were a Democrat, nobody would be talking that way, but it doesn't matter to me. I've gotten so used to it. Look, we have totally destroyed their military. They have some missiles left. They have some drones left.
Do you know how many missiles?
Yes, exactly.
How many?
I don't want to tell you.
Can you give me a ballpark?
But they have some left. No, but I know almost to the number, and we know where they are too, and we know where their drones are, and we know where their drone factories are. Most of the drone factories have been knocked out. Most of the launching pads have been knocked out, and most of the missile manufacturing areas have been knocked out. But they still have capacity. They have some missiles. They have some drones. I would say percentage-wise, maybe 21, 22% of their missiles. It's a lot of missiles, but it's not what it was when we first attacked.
So you're saying they have 21, 22% of their missiles left?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Larry, how can this be true? We have totally destroyed their military. They only have 21 or 22% of their missiles left, and we've destroyed their ability to manufacture drones and launch militaries. This is a gross exaggeration, is it not?
Yeah, not only is it not true, notice yesterday when Israel retaliated against Iran and launched missiles, they hit like 5 sites. All 5 sites are areas where missiles have been launched from. And what did Iran do 30 minutes later? They launched more missiles from those sites into Israel. So there's a lot of self-delusion going on, not just with Trump, but with the Israeli government as well. Iran is in a stronger position, both strategically and tactically today, than they were 101 days ago. And yesterday marked day 100 since the start of that war that was going to last 3 to 4 days. So that in and of itself shows you both the resilience and strength of Iran, far from being obliterated. They are in a position where they the other day they carried out an attack, which I'm told damaged an extremely sensitive, extremely important U.S. capability in Bahrain. I was not told the full the nature of it, but just that it had the Joint Staff sick. They were just they were in a panic that Iran took this out, and part of their panic was the only way Iran could have known about this place or this location, this site, was with the Russian or Chinese intelligence assistance to Iran, which I believe is exactly what happened.
Larry, thank you very much, my dear man. If there's something dramatic, of course, we'll hope to see you again before Friday. Otherwise, we'll see you with Ray McGovern at the end of the week.
Of course, you know what that means. We're going to be on doing this about every 2 hours now through the.
Beginning to look that way. Thank you, my dear man. All the best.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
Sure. And the aforementioned Ray McGovern, if you're watching us live, we'll be here in 26 minutes at 10 o'clock this morning and at 3 this afternoon. On all of this, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.
Hello, 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 check, check, hello, 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 check, hello, 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 got it, hello, hello, check, hello, 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 check, check.
इतने दे यार उतर जाओ सारा स्टेज पे सारा थले उतरो नामांगा फिर चाहिए
बाबू जी हम इसके ऊपर बैठेगा तार मिसिंग करे ना हल्ला लगो बैठ दे तब एक बार ओए पीछे जाओ ओए बच्चा बाहर आ जाओ बाहर जाओ चलो 10 बार बाहर जाओ 2 मिनट में गए एक बार बाहर नहीं चलो नशा बार पीछे आ जाओ बैठो चलो उधर जाओ तार मिसिंग करे मेरा लगती बार बार इसमें तार मिसिंग हाथ थोड़ी हरकत देखे नहीं मिस्टेक हुई एनु मोड़ लिंगो फिर मेरा हाथ है ना मोड़ना
थोड़ा दी
ऑर्केस्ट्रा थोड़ा बेस
थोड़ा ना किसको बेस
उसरी मस्तानिया वो पानिया